The Brady Bunch, the legendary family sitcom, brought laughter and warmth to millions of viewers around the world. But behind that ideal family were unexpected tragedies. Robert Reed lived in torment. Alan Melvin hid his illness until the last minute. And many other actors also faced cruel fates. What really happened after the show ended? Join us as we uncover the truth and celebrate their lasting legacy. Florence Henderson as Carol Brady. Florence Henderson was born on February 14, 1934 in Dale, Indiana, one of 10 siblings. At just 35 years old, she took on the role of Carol Brady, the gentle, intelligent, and determined mother who raised 6 children in the Brady family, an iconic American television character from 1969 to 1974. With her friendly smile, warm eyes, and charming demeanor, Carol Brady forever became associated with the image of Florence for the rest of her life. However, behind the glamorous appearance on screen was a private life full of silent wounds. Florence grew up in poverty, the daughter of a tobacco farmer and a hardworking mother. Her childhood was far from easy. She later shared the deep scars of her childhood, including periods of abuse and a turbulent family life, emotional burdens she carried with her throughout her life. These painful memories left her emotionally vulnerable, prone to depression, and even developed stage fright, a cruel irony for such a talented artist. Still, Florence had her moments of brilliance. Before becoming Carol Brady, she was a Broadway star in Fanny and the first woman to guest host The Tonight Show, a groundbreaking moment for American television. After the Brady Bunch, she remained a familiar face in pop culture, making guest appearances on The Love Boat, Caroline in the City, and even The Surreal Life. However, her personal life was also tumultuous. She married Ira Bernstein in 1956 and had 4 children, but their marriage ended in divorce in 1985. Florence later admitted to having affairs, including a relationship with former New York Mayor John Lindsay, a revelation that briefly damaged her good public image. In 1987, she remarried hypnotherapist John Kappas, who had treated her during her depression and stage fright in the 1980s. This second relationship was quieter and more stable, but ended tragically when Kappas died of cancer in 2002. Florence became a widow and spent her final years starring in light-hearted television shows like Who's Cooking with Florence Henderson and The Florence Henderson Show, which helped her maintain financial stability while living alone. However, she quietly battled heart disease in her final decade. Just 3 days before her death, she appeared on set to support Maureen McCormick and her daughter Marcia during a taping of Dancing with the Stars. Florence Henderson died on November 24, 2016, during Thanksgiving weekend in Los Angeles. She died of heart failure at the age of 82, so suddenly that even her family and the public were shocked. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at $10 million, thanks to an acting career, a long-running endorsement deal with Wesson Oil, and television deals spanning more than 6 decades. Maureen McCormick as Marcia Brady. Maureen McCormick was born on August 5, 1956 in Encino, California. At the age of 13, she was cast as Marcia Brady, the Brady family's eldest daughter, a beautiful, striking, but sometimes arrogant young woman. During the 5 seasons of The Brady Bunch from 1969 to 1974, Maureen's image of the perfect, confident, and beloved Marcia made her a teen icon across America. However, behind the spotlight and Marcia's bright smile was a young woman struggling with her inner darkness. After The Brady Bunch ended, Maureen fell into drug addiction. She regularly used cocaine and quaaludes, leading to years of hallucinations, insomnia, and loss of self-control. At one point, Maureen admitted she even traded sex for drugs. She once auditioned for Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark while high on drugs for 3 days, which turned out to be a complete disaster. From then on, she developed a reputation for being unreliable in Hollywood, and many directors became wary of working with her. The 1980s and 1990s were a dark period, as she struggled with depression and eating disorders, particularly bulimia, which plagued her. At one point, Maureen stood on a balcony, threatening to jump in front of her future husband. It was at that moment that Michael Cummings, a normal, loving man, chose not to abandon her. They married in 1985, and from then on, Maureen began her journey of sobriety and psychotherapy. Although initially skeptical about antidepressants, after several sessions of therapy, she began taking Prozac and gradually regained control of her life. In 1989, she gave birth to her daughter, Natalie Michelle, marking a new chapter of hope and renewal. In between relapses and rehab, Maureen still managed to cling to her passion for acting. She appeared in a small role in Return to Horror High, 1987, and reprised her role as Marcia in the television movie A Very Brady Christmas, 1988. While these roles didn't restore her to her former glory, they were a testament to her efforts to maintain her identity amid the turmoil. It wasn't until 2007 that Maureen truly re-emerged into the public eye on Celebrity Fit Club, where she not only lost weight, but also opened up about her addiction and depression for the first time. A year later, she released her memoir, Here's the Story, a candid look at her tumultuous past and the pain she had buried for so long. The book quickly reached number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list. While Maureen McCormick's career never reached the heights of her Brady Bunch days, she has redefined herself as a survivor, a mother, a wife, and a courageous woman willing to speak her truth. In recent years, she has appeared in television shows such as A Very Brady Renovation, 2019, and Frozen in Time, 2021, and served as a global ambassador for the Special Olympics. After more than 4 decades in the spotlight and the shadows, she now enjoys a quiet life with her family in Los Angeles. As of 2025, Maureen McCormick is 68 years old. She is no longer actively involved in the entertainment industry, but still maintains an estimated net worth of $4 million, mainly from her memoir, reality TV projects, and modest real estate investments. Robert Reed as Mike Brady. Robert Reed was born on October 19, 1932, in Highland Park, Illinois. He was 36 years old when he was cast as Mike Brady, the devoted father of 6 children in the Brady Bunch. With his handsome looks, warm eyes, and elegant demeanor, Robert became the ideal model of the American father in the 1970s. But in real life, his world was completely different. Behind the gentle smile that was clearly visible on screen, his private life was filled with silent sadness. As a gay man in an era when Hollywood was far from accepting of gender and sexual diversity, Robert Reed was forced to lead 2 lives, one in the public eye and one behind the scenes. He had a long-term partner, but for fear of damaging his career, he never made the relationship public. To protect the perfect father image he portrayed on television, Reed had to suppress even the most basic emotions in his personal life. That self-denial eventually led to a state of chronic loneliness, dissatisfaction, and sometimes frustration with the people he worked with. Despite the emotional pain, Robert continued to give his all. After the Brady Bunch series ended in 1974, he took on roles in more serious television series such as Rich Man, Poor Man, and Roots, both of which received critical acclaim. His role as a teacher in Roots earned him an Emmy nomination, which he considered proof that he could, and always had, been a serious and capable actor. However, he never really escaped the shadow of Mike Brady, the role for which he was best known. In his later years, he devoted much of his time to theater and teaching acting at UCLA. He never married, had no children, and lived a relatively private life. Robert Reed's private world became increasingly isolated as he struggled with a series of health problems. First colon cancer, then HIV. His HIV status was not made public during his lifetime due to the heavy stigma that still surrounds the disease. It was only after his death that family and friends revealed that he had been living with HIV for many years, keeping it a secret to preserve what little dignity he had left. Robert Reed died on May 12, 1992, in Pasadena, California, at the age of 59. The official cause of his death was colorectal cancer, but medical reports later confirmed that he was also infected with HIV, which weakened his immune system and worsened his condition. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at $1.5 million. Not a huge fortune, but enough to allow him to live a quiet life without financial hardship, as he withdrew from the public eye in his later years. Barry Williams, Jongvai Greg Brady. Barry Williams was born on September 30th, 1954, in Santa Monica, California, the youngest of three brothers. In 1969, at the age of 15, Barry was cast as Greg Brady, the handsome, confident eldest son who often played the role of the leader in the Brady family's teenage troubles. With his flowing brown hair, bright smile, and charming demeanor, Greg quickly became the ideal male role model for American teenage boys in the 1970s. But behind the spotlight and the laughter of millions, Barry soon faced the harsh reality of being a child star stuck in one role. After the Brady Bunch series ended in 1974, Barry's career was torn between being rejected for being too much like Greg or being offered roles that were offensive to his own image. He tried to escape that shadow by moving into musical theater, performing in plays like Grease, Pippin, and The Sound of Music, where he could show off his deeper singing and acting skills. But even when he was cast as Scott Bakula's replacement in Romance on Broadway in 1988, people still called him Greg Brady in costume. The pressure of that image, combined with the turmoil in his personal life, often left Barry torn between the present and the past. In 2001, he was embroiled in a major dispute with Actors Equity, the National Theatre League, over his participation in the Sound of Music tour without union approval. Although he claimed to have renounced his membership, the organization still fined him $52,000, causing financial loss and damage to his reputation. He was reinstated in 2005 after legalizing another stage act, but his love life has been tumultuous. Barry has been married 3 times, first to Diane Martin, a short-lived marriage, and then to Isla Mary Matt, who gave birth to their son Brandon in 2003. That marriage ended in 2005, and a few years later, Barry had a daughter, Samantha, with his ex-girlfriend Elizabeth Kennedy. A tense split, coupled with the responsibility of raising children from different relationships, made the early 2010s a time of emotional struggle and exhaustion for him. He married for the 3rd time in 2017 to Tina Mahina, a step toward stability after years of turmoil. Despite all this, Barry never left the spotlight. He frequently reunited with the Brady Bunch cast in projects like A Very Brady Christmas and A Very Brady Renovation. He wrote a 1992 memoir, Growing Up Brady, I Was a Teenage Greg, which was adapted into a television movie in 2000. With his familiar voice, he released a comedy album called The Return of Johnny Bravo and co-hosted the Real Brady Bros podcast with Christopher Knight. At 69, Barry is still fit enough to join The Masked Singer and his former co-stars. And in 2023, he surprised fans by returning to compete on the 32nd season of Dancing with the Stars. Barry Williams will be 70 in 2025. He lives in Branson, Missouri, where he performs with his band, attends Brady Bunch-themed events, and frequently presents himself in public as a positive and upbeat person. Despite all the personal turmoil, career struggles, and constant pressure of being Greg Brady, Barry still carries the strength and spirit of the big brother, both on and off screen. His net worth is currently estimated at $6 million, earned through acting, stage performances, music, writing, and television appearances. Christopher Knight as Peter Brady. Christopher Anton Knight was born on November 7, 1957, in New York City, the son of actors Edward Knight and Wilma Knight. In 1969, at the age of 12, Christopher was cast as Peter Brady on the classic television series The Brady Bunch, a mischievous, humorous middle son who was always trying to find his place in a family of 6 siblings. With his bright eyes and infectious smile, Christopher quickly became a household name in America on weekends. However, the spotlight on him at such a young age did not bring him lasting happiness. After The Brady Bunch ended in 1974, Christopher suffered an identity crisis and struggled to escape the shadow of Peter Brady. Many hopeful auditions ended in disappointment, leaving him wondering whether people liked him for who he was or simply for a nostalgic past. While his co-star Barry Williams explored music, Christopher took an unexpected turn, leaving Hollywood to pursue a career in technology. By the late 1980s, he had given up acting and started working as a sales manager in the computer industry. Success came quickly. He landed multi-million-dollar contracts and was even named Employee of the Year. He then co-founded Visual Software, a 3D graphics company, launched KidWise Learningware, which focused on educational software, and finally founded Escape Labs, which was sold to Halpaga in 2000. Despite his absence from the screen, he kept in touch with fans through reunion projects like A Very Brady Christmas, 1988, The Bradys, 1990, and A Very Brady Renovation, 2019. However, the biggest changes came not in his career, but in his personal life. Christopher Knight was married 4 times. His third marriage was to model Adrienne Curry, nearly 25 years his junior and winner of America's Next Top Model. Their relationship was revealed to the reality television cameras on the show My Fair Brady. They married in 2006 in a Gothic ceremony in Joliet, Illinois. However, when the cameras stopped rolling and real life returned, their relationship began to crumble under media pressure and irreconcilable differences. They divorced on their 5th wedding anniversary. After the split, Christopher seemed to find peace in his 4th marriage to Cara Kokanis, which began in 2016. Despite occasional appearances on shows like The Surreal Life, The Masked Singer, 2022, and the documentary True Love, the film, 2023, he has chosen to live a quieter life, away from the glitz of Hollywood. He focuses on his furniture brand, Christopher Knight Home, and builds a more balanced and private life. As of 2025, Christopher Knight is 67 years old, lives in Los Angeles, and has an estimated net worth of $10 million. While some of it comes from his golden years on The Brady Bunch, much of it is a testament to his resilience, adaptability, and ability to reinvent himself, not in front of the camera, but in real life. Alan Melvin as Sam Franklin. Alan Melvin was born on February 18, 1923, in Kansas City, Missouri. He was 46 years old when he took on the role of Sam Franklin, the cheerful and dedicated butcher on The Brady Bunch, from 1969 to 1974. Although he only appeared in a handful of episodes as Alice Nelson's boyfriend and eventual husband, Sam became a source of humor and warmth throughout the series, a comforting presence amid the family's troubles. But behind the friendly smile and warm voice was a performer with a quiet, hard life. Alan Melvin began his career on Broadway and served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, before becoming famous as Henshaw on The Phil Silvers Show. With more than 100 acting roles, he was beloved for his voice acting, most notably Magilla Gorilla, and for his many comedic television roles, including Barney Hefner on All in the Family and Sergeant Hacker on Gomer Pyle, U.S. Marine Corps. However, his exceptional comedic talent inadvertently became a gilded cage, trapping Melvin forever. He once confided that not being given the opportunity to act in dramatic roles remained a lifelong regret, a quiet but persistent dissatisfaction. The pressures of working in Hollywood were not easy, but Melvin found strength in his personal life. He married Amalia Faustina Sestero in 1944, and they were married for more than 6 decades, a rare and respected fact in the entertainment industry. The couple had 2 children, and although the spotlight sometimes disrupted the family, Alan always put his children first, turning down long-distance invitations to stay close to his wife and children. In the 1980s, he returned to television as Barney Hefner on Archie Bunker's Place, and gradually moved into voice acting, a less glamorous but more stable field. His voice echoed throughout the late 20th century in shows such as The Banana Splits, The Secret Lives of Waldo Kitty, Tennessee Tuxedo, and many others. Away from the vibrant energy of the television screen, he quietly retired, ending his career with the role of Magilla Gorilla in Scooby-Doo in Arabian Nights, 1994, before officially retiring. On January 17, 2008, just a month before his 85th birthday, Alan Melvin died in Los Angeles after a long battle with cancer. His estimated net worth is around $1 million, largely from decades of acting and voice acting. He is buried at Westwood Cemetery, the final resting place of many Hollywood luminaries. Susan Olsen as Cindy Brady. Susan Marie Olsen was born on August 14, 1961, in Santa Monica, California. At just 8 years old, she was cast as Cindy Brady, the youngest daughter on the beloved family comedy The Brady Bunch, which aired from 1969 to 1974. Susan was too young to fully understand the cultural impact of her character. What she didn't know was that the role would follow her the rest of her life, both as a gift and as a shadow she would never overcome. As the glory of the Brady Bunch faded from memory, Susan entered her teenage years feeling lost and confused. At school, her classmates teased her for Cindy's overly childish personality, especially in episodes like Tattletale, where she was seen as annoying and a tattletale. The trauma left her withdrawn, insecure, and riddled with guilt, an experience that many child actors have gone through, but few dare to share. In the years that followed, Susan tried to find herself through many different paths, from studying art to venturing into radio and writing. In 1988, Susan entered into her first marriage to Steve Ventimiglia, but this marriage ended in divorce after only 2 years. She then married Mitch Markwell in 1995, and they had a son named Michael, who was later diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Raising a child with special needs brought great emotional stress, eventually leading to the dissolution of her second marriage in 2004. During this time, she continued to be involved in the arts, hosting radio shows, Brady-related specials such as The Bradys, 1990, and holiday films such as Blending Christmas, 2021. But all her efforts were still tied to the name Cindy Brady, which she has openly described as a curse for her career. Outside of entertainment, Susan found joy in painting and graphic design, especially with the satirical comic strip Fluffert. But the storm was not over. In 2016, she became embroiled in an online scandal after being accused of making discriminatory comments about the LGBTQ+ community, forcing her to temporarily withdraw from the public eye. Although she later explained her actions, her image was severely damaged. Since then, she has lived a more private life, rarely appearing in public. As of 2025, Susan Olsen is 63 years old. She still lives in California, spending most of her time on art, raising her son, and occasionally appearing on Brady Bunch memorabilia. Her net worth is estimated at $2 million. Mike Lookinland plays Bobby Brady. Michael Lookinland was born on December 19, 1960, in Mount Pleasant, Utah. At the age of 8, the bright-haired, mischievous boy was cast as Bobby Brady, the curious and playful youngest son on the television series The Brady Bunch, from 1969 to 1974. Despite his young age, Lookinland appeared in more than 30 television commercials, and the role quickly brought him to millions of American viewers. Behind the stage, however, was a difficult journey to adulthood. As the spotlight on Bobby Brady faded, Lookinland struggled with an emotional void that was difficult to fill. Unable to escape the Brady Bunch's overwhelming shadow, he was unable to take on any major roles throughout his teenage years. Feeling lost between his early fame and adulthood, he fell into alcoholism. In 1997, after leaving the set of Promised Land, he drove drunk, veered off a Utah highway, flipped his car, and nearly lost his life. With a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit, he was arrested and forced to enter a drug treatment program. But that accident proved to be a turning point. Lookinland quit drinking and never relapsed. Not long after, he appeared alongside Jennifer Jones and Paul Newman in The Towering Inferno, 1974. But his film career quickly stalled. He then turned to behind-the-scenes camera work and even made an unofficial appearance in the TV series Growing Up Brady, 2000. But hardships did not leave him alone. In a work accident, he had the tip of his finger amputated, causing him lasting pain and difficulty holding his camera. Realizing that his life needed a new direction, Lookinland left Hollywood and moved to Salt Lake City, where he founded Just Add Water Custom Concrete, which specializes in kitchen countertops, fireplaces, and decorative concrete products. An unexpected path for a former child star, but one that has brought peace and stability. In 2021, he reunited with his old co-stars in Blending Christmas, a small tribute to old memories. Now 64, Mike Lookinland lives in Utah with his wife, Kelly Wormuth, and 2 sons. With an estimated net worth of $2 million from his behind-the-scenes work and business ventures, he has chosen to live a quiet life, away from the fame that once brought him down. He may no longer be the mischievous Bobby boy of his earlier years, but to fans, Mike Lookinland remains an integral part of their childhood memories on the small screen. Ann B. Davis as Alice Nelson. Ann B. Davis was born on May 3, 1926. When she took on the role of Alice Nelson in The Brady Bunch in 1969, she was 43 years old, a mature age in her career, but also a turning point in her life. With her neatly groomed hair, familiar apron, and warm smile, Alice, the Brady family's housekeeper, quickly became a television icon, and Ann was loved across America. Few people knew that behind that smile was a soul hidden in quiet loneliness. Before The Brady Bunch, Davis had achieved fame as Schultze on The Bob Cummings Show from 1955 to 1959, earning her 2 Emmy Awards. Fame followed, but personal happiness remained elusive. She never married and had no children, a fact she later admitted was one of her deepest regrets. Despite bringing laughter to millions, Ann lived quietly behind the scenes and rarely spoke about her personal life. The character of Alice, while lovable, made it difficult for her to reinvent herself creatively. During the 1970s and 1980s, she continued to appear in sequels such as The Brady Brides, 1981, A Very Brady Christmas, 1988, and had a memorable cameo in The Brady Bunch movie, 1995. While many of these roles felt like reprises of her past successes, offstage, Davis embarked on another journey, a spiritual one. In 1976, she left Hollywood, sold her home in Los Angeles, and moved to a religious community in Denver and later Texas. The decision not only surprised her friends, but also created a clear distance between her and the entertainment industry that had once celebrated her. As she grew older, Ann faced hearing loss, difficulty moving, and declining health. On the morning of June 1, 2014, she fell in the bathroom and suffered a severe subdural hematoma. Despite being rushed to a San Antonio hospital, she did not survive. Her death was sudden and all the more tragic because, as her longtime friend and roommate, Bishop Frey confirmed, Anne had been cheerful and full of life until that day. She died at the age of 88, leaving behind an estimated net worth of $2 million, largely due to her television deals and the enduring cultural legacy she created. Eve Plum as Jan Brady. Eve Aline Plum was born on April 29, 1958, in Burbank, California. She was 11 years old when she was cast as Jan Brady, the middle daughter of the Brady family, who suffered from teenage angst, feelings of being left out between her two sisters, and low self-esteem. On screen, Jan appears to be learning to grow up like any other teenager. But behind the gentle smile, Eve Plum is also struggling with a rushed adolescence, as her childhood is quickly swept away by a whirlwind of fame and expectation. When the film ends, Plum is just 16 years old and facing the void of a career that started too early. Her attachment to the character of Jan Brady made it difficult for her to find new roles, leading her to spend years in obscurity and isolation in the film industry. However, a small breakthrough came in 1976 when Eve played a teenage prostitute in the television series Dawn, portraying a runaway teenager. Although the role was critically acclaimed, it was also controversial. Many audiences weren't ready to see Jan Brady in such a bold and dark role. She tried to step out of Brady's shadow, but he always seemed to be one step ahead of her. Eve Plum's personal life remained so private, it was almost a mystery for many years. In 1995, she married business executive Ken Pace, and the couple had no children. Although their relationship was said to be stable and scandal-free, many believe that the years before their marriage were filled with quiet frustrations, not only in her personal life, but also in her career, which drifted between nostalgia and reality. She made sporadic appearances in shows such as Fudge, 1995, and Nowhere, 1997, but those were just fragments of a long-awaited journey. Today, Eve Plum is still alive at 67, living with her husband in California. Her estimated net worth is $5 million, not from box office hits, but from shrewd investments, painting, and a modest income from the legacy of a role that defined her life. And perhaps for Eve, that was enough.